Welcome, everyone, to the ScreamCast episode 44. I'm your host, Sean DeRager, and with me, Brad Henderson.
Hi.
I'm a little, I sound a little deeper than normal today because I haven't had all of my...
Sounds like you're putting that on.
I haven't had all of... I haven't finished my cup of Coffee Shop of Horrors coffee yet.
Oh, jeez. Did you just say coffee? Like, do you have to plug it every time?
I'm just having some fun here.
Whatever. Moving along.
Moving along. It's been a pretty interesting week. I do sound a little hoarse this week, so I do apologize for that. But it's been an interesting week in the news of releases and shit like that. We'll cut one of these for the Blu-ray announcements, of course. But I did want to talk about the whole Dog Soldier stuff that went down.
Yeah, it got moved to June now.
So, yeah, and it was an interesting couple days because I guess a month ago they silently or kind of under the radar told someone on their Facebook site that they were not going to do a new transfer for Dog Soldiers, which I'm surprised that more sites didn't jump on that. I mean, all the people in the forums, of course, when I posted it in this horror forum on Facebook, someone goes, "Oh, I already announced that last month." It's like, sorry, dude. No one else read that.
Was it Sylvester Stallone?
I don't know, just some...
Because that's what you sounded like.
I don't know, these Facebook forum things, man, I'm sorry, full of some douchebags. But anyway, so it was kind of silent.
What are we?
Well, I could be a douchebag too. Brad's the biggest of them all.
Thanks.
But no, that the trolls come out on these things, man. It's ridiculous. But
no, I know.
But so that was, to me, that was big news because, I mean, to me, like, Dog Soldiers is one of my favorite. I think it's my favorite Neil Marshall flick, and it's the movie that introduced me to Neil Marshall and as a director. And I loved the combination of werewolves and military, and and. So the fact, and the Blu-ray just sucked. The current Blu-ray that's out right now just looks horrible. I mean, it just stick with the DVD. Why even upgrade? So the fact that there wasn't going to be a new transfer to me was a big deal, and I was surprised that more sites didn't jump on that news. But they still said they had a lot of extras that were gonna look into. But to me, it's kind of about the movie. I want a really good transfer with my interesting extras.
It's all about the transfer then, not about the movie.
Right. Well, you want it to look good. I mean, if it's about the movie, I'll go out and spend $9 on the current Blu-ray. Why am I going to spend $25 on a collector's edition?
No, I know. Calling it a collector's edition, and from what they've done in the past with their collector's editions, like I've said, that most of them, I'd say almost all, are decent transfers. They're really, really well done for the most part. So calling it a collector's edition, putting on loads of extras, and then giving people the same transfer, this is going down. I think that they probably learned from their past mistakes, like, holy shit, we probably need to do something because now people are just pissed off.
Yeah. So word got around even more, I think. I mean, who knows? But word got around that day because we posted it on their site, on their Facebook page. Another website got a hold of the news and kind of spread it around. But no major sites did. Like, no one did. But they responded back to me saying that they've been trying to find a good transfer. To be clear, Sean. If you go to our website, you'll see the response to me. But to be clear, they were exhausting all possibilities, of a new transfer, and which is fine. But it's like, why don't you have that cleared up before you announce, before the ink's signed on the contract? It's like, get that shit in order,
No, I think it's one of those things where it was just an HD master of how Ravenous was. Word got out first. They said that they tried. I mean, they probably tried, but they didn't exhaust every. They said exhausted every avenue.
Yeah. Well,
but then
apparently they didn't.
Then it's like, oh wait, no, we kind of have this other thing we're going to go with.
Yeah.
No, you saw the response from the fans. You saw the response from people, and people were either they said, don't release it.
Yeah.
Just cancel it.
Yeah.
And people were fine with that because, I mean, people are more, they want a better transfer and a better looking movie rather than, a shit ton of special features on a disc, which I can respect because I'm, about the movie as well. But, they pulled that back very quickly and they had another avenue to exhaust to.
From the director himself.
Yeah, which is, I kind of smell a little bit of BS, but I'm glad, but I am glad it actually is happening. Yeah. So, at least they're listening to the fans. I do appreciate that. I wish they did it in the past too, because Scream Factories, they are getting tagged for a bunch of shit that they're doing. I've given them some shit over the course of a year. I'm still on the fence with them. I at first I was all about Scream Factory because they did really, really good work. And then we got a couple, sloppy releases here and there. And I was realizing that, it was just me being excited for, these movies being re-released that was taking over rather than what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they beef it up a little bit and they get a little bit better and it could do things like this. Yeah. I imagine we're not going to get a new transfer of Dog Soldiers anyway.
We might not. They still said they worded it very carefully that it's potentially could be a better transfer. They're going to look at the new film elements and see if it's something that they can work with.
Yeah, I just don't see how hard it is to get something like that, especially with the newer movie. I know that there's probably some funky stuff because, that was originally a sci-fi movie that was when it was released, because I remember watching that. Sci-fi promoted it for one night only, Dog Soldiers at 10 o'clock. And I watched it on Sci-Fi. That's originally where it premiered here. I don't know about anywhere else. So I wonder if there's some kind of funky stuff with that, with the rights and where the original film elements went.
Yeah, it's already been delayed once.
And the Blu-ray, so that's kind of weird too. I don't know. It seems like Scream Factory has a harder time getting a hold of film elements and transfers rather than these other small companies that aren't, shout Scream Factory.
Yeah, well, I think those other companies are more careful in their selections and they make sure everything's in order before they make announcements.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Synapse has lists on their plate, but when they get a movie, they do it right.
Screen Factory's not doing transfers of the original film elements either.
Right. Yep.
So basically, they can announce it. That's the trick, and that's, I guess, what I think people should know is, Vinegar Syndrome. They have the original film elements. They have the 16 that they're going to do a 2K scan. They have the 35 that they're going to do a 4K scan. Screen Factory's just like, oh, we have the master. We're good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens, because they're not searching for the film elements. They have the rights to the movie. That's what's happening. Yeah. And then when they find out the film elements aren't good, they work with what they have.
Yeah,
that is what's happening with Scream Factory. I think it's kind of shisty a little bit because $25 movies for something that we can watch on MGM HD is not ideal.
Yeah. Well, we may get into this a little bit today. Today, we are talking about 3 frickin' movies. We're going to talk about The Houses October Built. We're going to talk about Horns. And then we're going to talk about Scream Factory's release of Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. So that's what's on our plate today. But first, I think we got some Blu-ray announcements to get to.
Do you like what you see?
I love what I see.
Would you like to touch what you see?
Yes, I would.
Was that your...
I was trying new.
That's the new. All the trailers nowadays have the bong, you know.
Sorry.
With the
It's enough. Can we just do Blu-ray announcements? Thanks. For Blu-ray announcements. Today, Supernova by Scream and the Phantom Opera by Scream is released. That's going to be a dilly. I mean, the Phantom Opera is actually not all that bad. I haven't seen it in years, so I'm kind of excited to pick that up again. Magnolia Magnet released Honeymoon, which almost made it to my top 10 of last year. Pretty cool flick. Go in blind because there's something special to the film. Exactly what's going on. Jezebel by Lionsgate was released, which I watched yesterday. It's not that bad. I think it's going to get tossed in there as being, a ripoff of Annabelle because it's Jezebel, but it's not. It's a completely different storyline and nothing to do with, dolls. Actually, the name Jezebel makes sense because it takes place in the Bayou in Louisiana. So the name, definitely stems from something. It's just not something that's made up to reap the benefits of Annabelle. Pretty cool, little plot, cool plot twist. Has one of the scariest moments I've seen in a long, long time. Actually, really, really terrifying. It takes place in a bathtub. I didn't think a film would go that route. Reminded me a lot of there's a bathtub sequence in Martyrs that's pretty fucking terrifying. And that this is almost the same way. It's very, very good. And then on DVD, Massacre Video is releasing Demon Queen, which is one of those extremely hard to find VHS tapes from back in the day. Massacre Video is doing this a lot, so that's pretty cool that they're putting these things out on DVD and VHS, of course. But Blu-ray's out of the question because, as Zach Carlson said on one of our shows, if you try to put it on Blu-ray, it's going to look like poop. Which makes sense. But so if you finally want to get around to watching a decent transfer, a copy of Demon Queen, I highly suggest that. It's not the greatest movie, but you'll have some fun. And then I've got a couple messages through my personal Facebook, I think through our Twitter too, Sean, and my Twitter, is why do we just focus on horror films during the Blu-ray announcements? Well, we are kind of a horror film podcast. No, it's not. I'm not trying to be a smartass.
I will be a smartass.
Well, here's the thing: is that
I'll let you answer.
I kind of agree with what they're saying because there are some films out there that are, borderline horror, or maybe could be looped in. Because, horror fans love action films.
Right.
And they're very diverse. And we are pretty diverse, too, because we talk about other things in horror films. So I'm going to not list every Blu-ray that's coming out, but I will pick and choose of what I think that our listeners and the community will enjoy.
And we're trying to keep the show at a certain length.
Yeah, because if we do all Blu-ray announcements, that's going to be the whole entire show. So, on May 26th, Blue Underground, I'm super, super duper excited about this. On May 26th, Blue Underground is releasing Escape from the Bronx and New Barbarians, which are two Enzo
New Barbarians.
Castorelli films, which is, he did 3 films back to back, basically. He did 1999 or 1990 Bronx Warriors, and then he did Warriors of the Wasteland, and then he did New Barbarians is Warriors of the Wasteland. Escape from the Bronx is just Escape from the Bronx. I always get those confused because when they were made in Italy and then they transferred over here, they had different titles, and they have different titles through the course of their VHS releases. So anyways, 1990 Bronx Warriors is not one of them, but Warriors of the Wasteland, Escape from the Bronx, Warriors of the Wasteland is New Barbarians are coming out on Blu-ray.
Nice.
From Blue Underground, which is cool. I think more Enzo Castorelli films need to be out because he did he did the Inglourious Bastards flick. He did Last Shark and The Shark Hunter, which we were supposed to have the Last Shark on Blu-ray last year, but that that actually didn't happen. So I'm pretty excited about that, especially Warriors of the Wasteland, Fred Williamson in HD, which will be nice. And then Henry Silva, I believe, is in Escape from the Bronx. Also on that day, Enter the Ninja from Kino is coming out, the Franco Nero film.
Yes.
And then they also announced Revenge of the Ninja, but I don't think they gave a date for that.
May.
I thought it was okay. It's probably
it's all the same month, man. It's ridiculous. Is it May or March?
Yeah.
It's
May.
It's all the same, dude. May is gonna break the bank. Like Kino has so much coming out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I'm excited about those. I'm hoping that they're cheap because I have the German releases of Enter the Ninja and Revenge, so I'm hoping that they're good transfers. But that means for the U.S. now we have all 3 Ninja films on Blu-ray. We have Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, and Ninja 3 from Scream Factory. So that's exciting.
Now we just need American Ninja.
That's actually was
Dudikoff.
announced.
Was it announced?
Yeah, American Ninja is getting released on Blu-ray.
From who?
I honestly don't remember. I should have wrote that down for the Blu-ray announcement.
I knew that was coming, but I hadn't seen an official announcement. Me and somebody were just talking about that on the Facebooks.
Yeah, it's either Kino or Olive, one or the other.
Makes sense. Cool. Hey, any Dudikoff on Blu-ray is fine with me.
Yeah, because they also announced River of Death, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I can finally get rid of my VHS of that. May 12th, 2 films that I'm not too fond of that are released by Kino, Premature Burial and The Man with X-Ray Eyes. They're just silly. They're silly movies. They're like mystery. I even think The Man with X-Ray Eyes is a Mystery Science Theater episode one time.
Probably, yeah.
And then previous Blu-ray announcements, but they actually have dates now.
Oh, cool.
May 3rd is Exterminators of the Year 3000. April 21st is Ghoulies 1 and 2 on the double feature, Class 1984 and Escape from New York. April 14th is Carrie, the remake of, let's say the television remake of Carrie, and The Rage, Carrie 2. April 7th is Invader from Mars. And then I don't think we have announced this. This is one of those new ones. Is Hooper from the Burt Reynolds film WB is actually getting released on April 7th.
A lot of Burt Reynolds flicks are getting released.
It's because Burt's the man.
I know he is. Damn.
March 31st is Alan Quatermain in The Lost City of Gold. And then February 3rd, a confusing announcement, but I actually talked about this on Twitter, is Call the Conqueror is getting a Blu-ray release, which is very bizarre. But, hey, it's Kevin Sorbo and Tia Carrera in a ripoff of Conan the Barbarian.
Dude, I'm in.
Well, I mean, I think Call's based on the film's based on a comic book anyway. Yeah. But I don't know what came first, Conan or Call.
Well, I think it's
tweet me and let me know.
I think he's supposed to be like Conan's brother or he's related to Conan somehow. I think actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
But give me those movies any day. We need more of those movies. Like I love.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do, dude. The Conan remake was awesome.
Oh, I have no words.
It got dragged through the mud a little bit, but I had some fun with that flick in the theater. It wasn't great, but it was enjoyable. It was as good as Conan the Destroyer.
I don't watch it. I don't watch those movies.
You don't? Oh man.
No, I have this thing with you now. Is that if the budget's not over $5 million, you don't like the movie?
That's not true. That's not true.
If it's not, I text John all the time. No Bay, no way.
Yeah.
It's not a Michael Bay movie. Get it out of my fucking face. I don't want to see it.
Good times. If you guys don't follow us on Twitter, you should, just for these exchanges we have back and forth. They're pretty great. They make me laugh.
Yeah, it's funny. It's harmless fun. So that means that Sean liked Horns because that was over $5 million, and Candyman 2 is probably over $5 million. But he'll hate The House is October Built because that was independent.
Well, let's talk about it.
Well, first let's discuss the found footage film, The Houses That October Built.
Tell me about yourself and what are we doing?
You want my name? My name is Zach. You've known me for 20 years, Mikey. I rented an RV. I want to find the most extreme haunted house in the world.
What is an extreme haunt? I don't understand how far you really can go on without hurting somebody. What's your name, buddy? Hi, Mikey.
What's the camera for? Are you doing Crime Stoppers or cops or something?
We're doing To Catch a Predator.
To Catch a Predator? I gotta go.
You want to be a pretty dolly like me?
What's going on? Do you care if we ask you some questions? I'm with all this group of people, and we're trying to find something extreme. Hey, we got it. It's in Louisiana this year.
We don't have an address, though.
This is where they said to go.
Is that the girl from The Haunt?
She didn't really say anything. Something happened to your car?
This was a fun flick for me. I'm a fan of found footage. I believe Sean is kind of still maybe on the fence with found footage. Doesn't care for it. With this film in particular, the history of this movie is that there was a documentary that came out of the same name about this crew that went to Halloween haunts. Now, a haunt, if you're unfamiliar with that, is a house that is occupied by a bunch of people that are putting on a haunted house, for fun. And they went around trying to kind of find the scariest or what went the furthest. Just a fun little documentary, very similar to, there was a documentary a couple years ago called The American Scream, which focused on 3 houses. It was actually very, very good.
That's really good.
Definitely check out The American Scream. But then after they made that documentary, they were smart and they were like, well, let's actually make a found footage horror film of, being tailed by these people, that they piss off, and then they are stalked by these people from this house. To me, this is a found footage movie that's presented in a different way, but also, because there's always that thing is what makes found footage scary, what makes it fucked up, fucked up, like, oh my gosh, they fucked up, or, things that move smoothly. To me, I think this one is done a little bit better than your most, because it is very low key. It's not grand. It's not this grand scheme. It's more or less being stalked, rather than, ghosts or goblins or anything like that. Mm-hmm. We kind of like all our characters in the film. We do kind of have the shaky cam going. But I know people have a problem with the ending of this movie, and I think that's the biggest issue that the film has. Personally, I don't mind the ending because I like how it isn't big and grand and fireworks going off. It's just very, oh shit, that just happened. Mm-hmm. But I think this is one of these things where it's found footage done right, because it's just very if you want to call it standard, you can, but it's just there. But there are a lot of scary moments in this movie. So
yeah, no, I think so. You're right when you say found footage done right, because I like this movie. I liked the approach that they took with it. I liked that it wasn't just one person carrying the camera the whole time, which for me, because I went to college for we called it a communications degree, but it was how to be a camera, how to run a camera, how to edit, how to do all that stuff. And I always think there's no way that I would keep filming in that situation, or whatever. Whatever that happened to that camera just broke that camera. It should not be working. I think there's in Quarantine, there's a scene where I'm like, that camera where they kill a zombie
bash the face.
with the camera. I'm like, that would not still be running, So that took me out of that movie. But the movies that have worked best for me have been the first two Rec movies. And I'm trying to think of other movies that worked, surprisingly, As Above, So Below worked for me for some reason. But I think that was because there's kind of a sense of discovery, there's the archaeology angle and kind of a Indiana Jones angle to it, which I like. But then that ending gets batshit, which you just have to go with. But I liked the more low key nature where it makes sense because they're trying to document their trip. They're putting cameras everywhere, and nowadays it's easy. You can kind of get away with, because there's GoPros and things like that. You can believe that there's going to be cameras everywhere, and every angle is going to be covered. You always have to kind of overlook the editing part, like, who edited this together, and
I don't think I think now found footage is the method of storytelling. It's
exactly.
not actually found footage, and I think people need to be aware of that, because they're like, who got it, who edited it together? Well, no one did, because we're just watching a movie, just the same thing as we're watching just a regular standard movie. So it has an editor, someone edited it together. We're just watching how it's presented to us. Some found footage movies is like, this is grabbed from the police evidence locker, which is fine. I'm fine with those too. But you're actually, think of it as you're just watching something unfold live. Look at it like that a little more. But I like this one because it did give a reason. Because, I mean, we always have those found footage movies. There's this cliche standard thing where, someone, like, as soon as everything starts happening, the person turns to the camera and says, "Whatever you do, don't stop filming." Well, motherfucker, if someone's coming after me, I'm going to drop this, this fucking sack that's on my shoulder, and I'm going to run. Yeah. So that's why GoPros actually work and stuff, because they're not carrying the camera. Exactly. At certain parts in this film, I think that you might want to set down the camera, but that happens. So I think that found footage is always going to be kind of at fault for that type of thing. But I also say that people use it for night vision or use it for light. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Yeah. It happens in the film too.
But I think they find, and I don't want to give anything away, but they find out a way to do it in the end that makes sense. Just go with it, and that's kind of what I appreciated about it. Whereas, they thought this through enough to be like, all right, in this situation, the person's not going to have the camera on. How do we keep it going? And they found a way to do it. And for me, like, the movie worked. Like, it's found footage. It's not, for me. It's nothing. Nothing's. I want to say nothing special, but that sounds a little more condescending. But
it's nothing spectacular.
Exactly. But I think they do it right.
It's special. It's special in a way because we're given a story that has kind of a unique premise. It's actually scary. We're not questioning exactly why the people are doing what they're doing. So in that right, it's nothing special. It's just very to the norm, but it's just presented in a way that's pretty cool and something that we haven't seen before.
And there's one scene in here which really got under my skin.
And was it when she got on the RV?
Yes, that scene.
It's actually in the trailer, and I hope people aren't watching the trailer because that's man. That scene, it's very unnerving. Yeah, it's very unnerving. So, I mean, I think the whole film with people in with the thing is, like I said, the plot is that a bunch of people want to, it's almost like a continuation of that. What if their documentary went wrong? That's kind of like how this is presented.
And did you watch the documentary?
Yeah. No, I actually watched it after the movie because I actually didn't know it existed.
Well, I had to be like, well, is this another? You know what I mean? Is this a earlier version? You know what I mean? Because you can tell that they did it right, and they really kept it natural in the movie version.
I think that's what it is. But the same thing is a bunch of clowns and a bunch of people in masks and makeup like stalking you. It's pretty scary. You know, I find it very effective. Like Sean said, it's nothing special. It's more or less spectacular. I mean, we're not, you know, watching a survival horror film. It's just people filming a documentary that take a wrong turn almost. Yeah. Ooh, wrong turn.
But it gets me in the Halloween spirit. I think this is going to be one, if not every year, I'm going to bring this out at Halloween.
Even if you don't like the film, the documentary is on the Blu-ray, and the documentary is good too. So you're getting two, and it's super cheap at Best Buy and online.
Bucks,
so, yeah.
And I think the Blu-ray is only available through Best Buy, right?
Yeah, it's a Best Buy exclusive. Yeah.
So,
which is also by Image, but that will change. It'll be available other places. It's just like Best Buy exclusive for like a week or two.
Yeah, they did that for some reissues of Blu-rays. Like The Ring came out as a Best Buy exclusive like 2 months before the full release.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I know, huh? So
yeah, I know that Echo Bridge does that. It's a Best Buy exclusive, first time on Blu-ray sticker.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, I think people should check it out, watch it on demand, you know, buy it. If you enjoy found footage, you're going to find something in this film you like. If you don't like found footage and you're totally against it, you know, you might want to maybe just give the documentary a shot.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know that there's a lot of hate for found footage, and I understand why. It's just that I truly believe that there are more good found footage movies out there than people think. I think, you know, it's kind of like almost similar to how the world works. We turn on the news, we read the paper, we look online. All we see is death, murder, and rape. But we don't see anything that's good happening in the world. I think that's kind of the same way how found footage is presented, because we have these terrible found footage movies that are constantly talked about.
Yeah.
But we actually have a really, really good slew of decent found footage movies. And I hope that maybe those bring more light than – because, I mean, seriously, I watch at least one found footage movie a week because of everything that I get in the mail. I'm not kidding. I literally have one found footage movie every week that appears. And most of them are not good. They're not good. But on the other hand, when they are good, I like that method of storytelling because it feels real. It feels like I'm there. It feels like a true story. Yeah. So therefore, it scares me. Like normal films don't do anything for me. It's hard to make me actually be afraid or jump or anything like that. But when it's presented in the aspect of it looks like it's real, because I tend to I get so into the movie that I tend to forget that we're watching a movie. I'm looking at if it's actually happening. I'm watching something on YouTube that was captured. That's how I feel about found footage. And
yeah.
I guess other people don't feel that way.
Well, I think for me, it has to be naturalistic. Like if you want to see a found footage movie done wrong, Romero's Diary of the Dead is probably for me, the best example, because the acting is not good. It doesn't seem natural. It does the whole thing where he has to keep rolling. He's like trying to keep rolling and trying to charge the battery at the same time. So he's holding the camera plugged into the wall so he can capture everything. It just makes no sense. It's like no one will do that. It does have a few fantastic scenes in it, like with the Amish dude. So there's some surprises in it that I like, but that's an example of found footage done wrong. Like as soon as someone you can tell is acting and is not a good actor, it takes me out of the found footage. It has to be naturalistic,
it's the same thing with just a regular movie. I mean, we have to have things presented to us in, a manner that, we consider good. Yeah. And if it's not, then you're going to lose your audience. Just like as if you have a drama with a bad actor, you're not going to feel anything.
Yeah, but I think people can be a little more forgiving in a it's so bad it's good sort of way, which I don't like the It's So Bad It's Good. I mean, there's movies that have problems, and I know there's bad acting, but I go with it, and I enjoy it anyway. But if it's a found footage, it has to work. It's almost harder. For me, it would be harder to act in a found footage movie because you have to sell it, you know. And for me, it
you
has
have to be real. It's almost like you're not. It's weird to actually say this, but it's almost like if you're not acting, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you are, but you really have to portray this real character. You have to believe. I mean, yes, it's acting, but there's a certain realism to it, and that's why I really like that. And a really good another found footage movie done right. I consider. Along with holding the camera, maybe not so much, but the taking of Deborah Logan is fantastic. It's really good, and it's one of those found footage. I like how it's set up because I like what some found footage movies are doing these days because they are trying to do something new and different. Like there was this found footage movie called Delivery: The Beast Within. I didn't care for the second half of the movie, but the film, the first half is set up like one of those really glitzy, glamorous, like Big Brother shows where like the person's being interviewed and like flowers pop up and give the person's name and they look at the camera like, "Oh, hi, I'm Heidi, blah, blah, blah." You know, and it's just like this cute, like weird, like presentation of this horror film. And it's like the pilot episode of the movie or the pilot episode of the series.
Right.
But after the first episode, things take a toll for the worst. And then we jump into the found footage thing. So I like how that film did it. A different aspect, a different way to look at it.
Yeah.
And the taking of Deborah Logan's kind of the same way because it's a student film of a doctor that's studying Alzheimer's. So we are actually given knowledge of Alzheimer's and how it works and stuff like that. And then the horror starts. So I like what people are trying to do. They're trying to divvy it up a little bit, make it a little bit different than our standard stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I liked As Above, So Below. Like it was different, and the ending is just gets bad shit. So it's fantastic. I don't know. Did you see that one? As Above, So Below?
No, I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it yet?
No,
I dug it. I think people that like found footage enjoyed it for what it was. But I don't know. Good stuff. I mean, I don't like them all, and I'm always kind of roll my eyes a little bit when I hear it's found footage. But I'll give it a shot.
Oh,
and,
Sean, you're so high maintenance.
I know. And if it's high concept, fun. That's great. And so the houses October built worked for me, and it got me
a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. It got me in the Halloween mood too. I was like, man, why didn't I watch this? This would have been perfect to watch in October. So I would say grab this, and if you can wait till October to watch it.
But this is that said, this film's a hit or miss for people.
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
But I'll tell you something that shouldn't be a hit or miss is Candyman 2. All right, let's move along to
Candyman 2.
The sequel to Candyman.
Farewell to the flesh.
Candyman. 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 Candyman.
Candyman, flesh and blood? I'm afraid not.
But he lives in the mirror.
You say his name 5 times, he's supposed to come.
That's how he gets you.
You guys don't really believe that, do you? There's no such thing as a Candyman.
Candyman has a funny backstory because of one film that I know, or there are actually two films that I hear that scare the shit out of people, is It and Candyman. And both films, I think, are extremely cartoonish at times, and they're not scary at all.
Oh yeah.
Now I think Tony Todd does a great performance as Candyman. He's mysterious. He's well spoken. He is very terrifying. But it's just that this is just a film that never really got under my skin. And I actually just rewatched Candyman just a couple nights ago. Because I haven't seen it in so long, and it was out on Blu-ray in the UK, and I picked it up, and then I watched it because I wanted to watch Candyman 2 because I've never seen it. So I actually enjoyed Candyman. I didn't like it as a kid, but I don't think it's scary. But I can see how it would be scary because it's based on a short story by Clive Barker called The Forbidden. And it's about, in the book, the short story is about a woman that's doing a thesis on graffiti. And it's kind of like, she goes to the projects and then she uncovers this local urban legend known as Candyman. And then that haunts her. In the movie, we are presented with Candyman based like an urban legend does exist. It actually has a backstory, has things like that. And it uses kind of elements from the Bloody Mary thing of saying Bloody Mary in the mirror. You say Candyman 5 times and Candyman appears and he haunts your dreams, whatever he wants to do. So I like the setup of the film and basing it off of kind of giving the film an urban legend already. I dig that because throughout the film and even the sequel, you learn more about this character and about how he became Candyman and why he is Candyman, which I enjoy. And I think Tony Todd's performance and the way he portrays the character, and I actually think it's pretty cool because he created an iconic killer. I mean, Candyman's up there with Pinhead, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, all that. So I think that's cool, and I think that's an accomplishment from any actor to bring that to the table and take that and be that character. As far as Candyman 2 goes, I enjoyed it a little bit more. I didn't enjoy it as much because Virginia Madsen's not in it, and she's pretty cute. But Candyman 2 is more or less kind of like a ghost slasher versus the first one being more, it's presented in such a way that it doesn't feel like a horror movie a lot of the times. It feels like a thriller, like a drama. And I really dug that about the first one, but the second one goes a little bit more on the gory side. Kind of. Yeah. Like these movies are like kind of gory, but not really gory. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if we're just desensitized by now, but I found myself kind of like these the Candyman movies in general just have never scared me, but I looked at them more as kind of mystery thrillers, I guess. No. I guess I see it that way. Even watching as a kid, I was actually bored as a kid because I didn't find it as a horror film. I never looked at it that way. I mean, it is, of course, but like you said, it has this. I watched a lot of 90s dramas with my mom because when we go to the video store, we'd rent an action movie for my dad. I'd rent a horror film for myself, and my mom would go to the drama section. I called it the sexy section because there was some sexy cover. Because I remember, just like it was always like a woman's back is being portrayed, just right down to her buttocks. And I always remember the cover of Horror was at our video store, and I would just stare at it. I was like, why is there a movie called Horror? And it's like, well, am I ever going to get to see this movie? I remember like watching Two Moon Junction with my mom, After Dark, My Sweet, just Relentless. That's actually a movie, not saying it's relentless. The film Relentless. It's just there's this misty, weird cinematography to these movies that you can just turn on most 90s movies and you're like, oh, this is from the 90s because it looks like everybody is fucking sweating profusely in these movies. And it's kind of like how Candyman was, and it always fell into that category of a drama to me. Just the way the cinematography's done, and it just wasn't scary. And there's more drama with Virginia Madsen than there actually is Candyman. Mm-hmm. And plus, we get to see her boobies when she's in the shower. And, there's this weird erotic scene when she's taking off her clothes when she's covered in blood. But anyways, I enjoy Candyman for what it's worth. I think it's a cool little series. Day of the Dead is not all that great.
The Candyman 3?
Yeah, they do get worse.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen 3 actually.
I like 2 better at times because it is more of a ghost slasher type thing versus the first one. But I also like the first one a little bit more because it goes a little bit more into the mythology, you know, and it tells us a little bit. I think we are shown too much. It falls into that category of like how Rob Zombie's Halloween was, is that we saw Michael Myers. We're growing up with Michael Myers. We know Michael Myers. Michael Myers isn't scary anymore. Yeah. See, in the first film in Candyman, we get hints because that guy who – there's actually a really good sequence is when they're actually having dinner. And, he's like, I wrote about Candyman like 10 years ago. And he goes into these small little details about, his life and what happened to him. And that's a really good little exposition setup for the character. And it does bring horror to the table. Now, in the second one, we actually get to see like that footage of what's happening to Candyman, It's like he's taken out, his hands cut off, he's smothered in honey for the bees to attack him. There's that. It's just whatever. They both go hand in hand. I think it's a great double feature, though. I really do. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. I was kind of jotting this down. Did you ever did the whole in the mirror thing, the Bloody Mary thing? Did that ever scare the crap out of you? Because it did me, man. I was. We're gonna go back in time to young Sean's life.
Oh God!
I was about 7. I think I was 7 or 6 or 7 years old, and I was in this thing like with our church. It was kind of like Christian Boy Scouts or whatever. And Christian Boy Scouts. Yeah, it was called. What was it called? I can't remember. Oh, Christian Service Brigade.
Camp for Jesus.
Jesus Camp. It was exactly like Boy Scouts, just run by a Christian organization. Anyway, so we were camping, or we were at some sort of camp or whatever, and some of the other guys in my little group, were telling this story around the campfire or whatever about Bloody Mary, and we're at a Christian camp, right? Whatever, talking about Bloody Mary and how if you say Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror, she'll appear, all covered in blood and everything, and they didn't say like, oh, she'll kill you. It was just she'll appear. And that was enough for me to just freak out. And they were like, come on, Sean, we're going to go in the bathroom and turn off the lights and say Bloody Mary and see if she appears. And I started like, I got all scared and just, I went and told on them actually got those guys in trouble because I was so freaked out. Dick. I know. But after that, every time I would get up to go to the bathroom when I was a kid, I would quickly turn the light on, as many lights on as I possibly could. And I would go to the bath because our bathroom, the whole wall is a mirror, so you can look at yourself piss. I don't know. So
I think it was for something else.
Maybe, but
I think it was for boning.
I don't know. I'm 7 years old. I'm not thinking about boning.
Fuck it. I was boning at 7. Shit.
Anyway, so like I would have to turn every single light on, do my business as fast as possible, and head back to bed. I think for the next 3 years, man.
3 years until you were 10.
Until I was 10, I was terrified of Bloody Mary, and I wasn't allowed.
Bloody Mary didn't have but exactly what are you scared of? That's my question.
Of a bloody girl appearing in the mirror. That's it.
So you had an image of what she looked like, because technically, there's nothing. Bloody Mary doesn't have an image; it's just an urban legend.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to actually see. So you just made up what you thought would be scary in your head, and that's what terrified you?
Yeah, basically like the girl from The Ring, just but red, covered in blood, hair matted down with blood, like that. That was the image I had. But this is a kid that I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, anything like demonic or ghostly or whatever was all related. Like I was raised that it was all, if you watched any of that stuff, you could possibly you go to hell. You know what I mean? So like all this was like real to me that, so I internalized it as real and like satanic, So yeah, man, the Bloody Mary urban legend scared the hell out of me. But now my kids talk about it and they kind of laugh about it, So
yeah, because it's funny.
Like, well, At least they're not.
I mean, we're all scared. We're all scared of different things. I mean, I think there's that traditional just monster in your closet, monster under your bed thing that scares most people. I mean, you don't know what's going to be there. It's just the fact that somebody could grab your feet, or someone's peering through a crack in a door that's left open.
Right.
I think that's just it's almost embedded in our head that we just believe it automatically. We don't see anything or we're told anything. It's just a fear. It's just a natural fear of the dark. I think every child is scared of the dark at some point in their life.
Yeah.
I was very much remembering the sequence in The Sixth Sense when he has to go pee, and he's like in his bathroom or in his bedroom, and he's like holding his legs together and makes a run for the bathroom. That was basically how my house was set up. Is the bathroom was way down the hall, so like I had a bolt.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
And I don't even know what I was scared of. I do know that how the upstairs is set up in our house. On the left was my mom and dad's bedroom, and then my bedroom is on the left as well, like just a little bit down, and then there is a guest room off to the right and a closet. But at the end of the hall was the third bedroom, but it was actually facing the hall. It wasn't on the left or right. It was just there. And my parents always left that door open, so all you saw was this black hole down there, and that just used to scare the fuck out of me because I never actually. I only have remembered one time being in that room. Was during the day with my family was back there for something, and I went back there. But other than that, I don't even. I was just terrified to go back there, but nothing ever scared. Like I wasn't scared of anything. It was just what's in the dark. Yeah. But I think that's a normal thing, Yeah. And I think it's fun to hear kids' stories, or even as adults, like what scared you, because I mean, there's a bunch of things. I remember because we lived up in the mountains. There was like sap on trees, and I thought that was spit from some monster. And that used to scare me. I used to see it and I'm like, oh my God, it's like getting closer to the house.
Nice.
But it's just something you make up in your head. I think it's fun. I think that's what true horror is all about. You might be terrified as a kid, but I think growing up, I think those are fun stories,
Yeah. So I was also watching Candyman 2, and I wanted to ask you, like, because they kind of use a narrator, like a radio DJ narrator, kind of like I think Pulp Fiction did. How Pulp Fiction had that narrator?
It's like the Warriors.
Warriors.
You boppers. The Candyman is out there.
So, by the way, the Warriors is on my list of shame. People, I've never seen the Warriors.
Podcast is over. I'll see you later.
Confession time. You know why I haven't watched it? Because when the DVD came out, the director added in like comic booky stuff.
No, he didn't add in. That was originally what he wanted to do.
Well, he freaking George Lucas did. So I've always been.
Didn't.
Yeah, he added in stuff after the fact.
No, dude, it's just transitions.
They all have lightsabers and stuff. And Jar Jar shows up.
It's just all transitions and stuff, dude. Well, actually, director's cut of the Warriors is pretty fucking cool.
Okay, I had avoided it because I wanted to see it in its original state, and I've been waiting for that. I should just watch the thing.
You can buy it on Blu-ray. You have both versions.
I got the Blu-ray for $5. It's sitting there on my shelf in my to watch pile. I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I did just put a list on Letterboxd. So I've been doing that so far this year, and I have my top 200 plus movies are on my list of shame. So
wow,
yep,
I
would
do it. I don't even want to know what's on that list, to be honest with you.
Nothing like, I mean, there's some that I'm like, why the hell am I going to watch that? But
yeah, I saw Jaws for the first time last year. Yeah, so there you go,
dog jerk. So did the narrator take you out of the movie at all, or?
No.
It's kind of, it was a little bit goofy to me, but
it's just whatever. I mean, it's just there. I don't think anything of it really. So.
And I wanted to talk about Bill Condon too, because the only other kind of horror he's touched has been the Twilight Saga, Part 1 and Part 2. But otherwise, he's been doing stuff like Dreamgirls and Kinsey and Gods and Monsters.
Well, he's a good director.
Yeah. Except for
the
Twilight Saga.
I think Gods and Monsters. I remember watching that just a few years ago. That's really good. Kinsey's just a great story because it's about Alfred Kinsey, and it's a fun because Liam Neeson portrays that character, but it's about a guy who really try to think about and the human male like sexual behavior. So it's a very unique story, and of course it's a true story. But yeah, I really dig that. The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, Part 1 and 2.
Could you tell his director flourishes there, or is that movie just so bogged down by the studio? You know what I mean? I haven't touched the Twilight movies at all, and I doubt I ever will.
Actually, part of the Twilight films, they are decent. It's just whenever, the vampires and werewolves come out. But there are certain things in the Twilight movies, especially later on, like I think it's Eclipse. And yes, people, I have watched the Twilight movies.
No judgment here.
My girlfriend is obsessed. So I had to go see it with the theater with her. But Eclipse is okay. Actually, the fighting sequences, like when they actually have their battle in Part 2, Breaking Dawn, it's fucking cool. It really is.
That's when I hear that scene's cool, but then I hear it gets derailed quickly.
Yeah, it gets derailed pretty quickly. But I'm not ever suggesting to watch Twilight movies, but I think Bill Condon's a good director.
But that's what I'm trying to bring out here. Like, even if he's given a pile of shit, can he at least get a little gold over that shit?
Yeah, no, I think he did a good job. I mean, he's a good director.
Yeah, I wish he would do more. I mean,
well, we have Candyman was the very first one with the guy that directed that. I mean, his horror was very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
He did one film before that was horror, was Paper House, which I highly recommend for people. It's a very, very, very good horror film. But other than that, I can't remember of anything else that he did.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know what? He just had something last year I saw. I forgot what it was. I looked it up before we did the podcast, and I forget it. But it was like a found footage thing that he did. But anyways, yeah.
And then what else we got about Candyman? Clive Barker was the writer of the first one, or he came up with a story. He's credited with the story.
Well, yeah, because he wrote The Forbidden. I don't think he wrote the screenplay.
Is it based? So it's based on his. I'm unfamiliar. So.
Well, yeah, it's based off. Like I said, weren't you listening to me in the beginning?
I may have
toned me out because I talked too much.
I have been looking. I may have been distracted for a split second, but
all right. Well, I apologize.
We did not go in depth.
I did. The Forbidden was written by Clive Barker, and it's about a girl that's doing a thesis, and she goes to the ghetto. She's doing a thesis on graffiti.
I'm a jackass.
Yeah, then she stumbles upon the history of Candyman.
I apologize.
Now, in the movie, she's writing a thesis, but she's actually doing it on Candyman.
On Candyman. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to make you repeat that.
It's all right. It just happens. So, but yeah, I mean, I think there's new interviews with Tony Todd, and of course, man, I just forgot her name. She's from Alien. Shit.
Well, Veronica Cartwright? No, wait.
Yeah, Veronica Cartwright.
Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah, they do interviews with her and Tony Todd, and we have a commentary. But this one falls a little short of special features, which is okay.
It's not a collector's edition, so they can get away with that.
Yeah, but I think it's a pretty decent little package for what you'll pay.
I think so. I got mine for like $15, I think.
Yeah, it's
pretty cheap.
It's cheap. It's cheap. Which yeah, I recommend it. I think it already has kind of a following. Yeah. I think this will be something that people are excited about and pick up.
I was going to say about the because we were talking about transfers earlier. Like, this is one you can tell they just got the master from a vault and just released it because it's not cleaned up. It's it is what it is. Some scenes are god awful ugly, but more towards the beginning, I feel like, and that's the
it's a little funky in the beginning.
Yeah, but that's the same thing as like Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt. Like when those came out, they kind of got better as they went on, which is weird. I don't know if that's.
I think maybe we're just getting used to it.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, but it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't. We've said this. I feel like countless times where I think people are getting their friggin' 4K HD upscale TVs, and they're wanting everything to look crisp, and they boot it up, they put their thing to 60 whatever and everything. They want everything to look like a soap opera.
The hell? What comes in 60
they boost
frames per second?
Yeah, they boost the frame rate on their TV so everything looks funky. You know what I mean? Like a soap opera. Ugh. Yeah. And everyone thinks that looks good, and that's how everything should look. So people will bring out an older movie and go, "Hey, that looks like shit," But no, it looks like the film. That's how the film looked.
Yeah.
Boost down your TV, boost everything down. I have mine set at 24, whatever. And see, I'm not technical. I know I can get technical to
frames per second.
Whatever. And it's like megahertz or something, but.
Megahertz.
That's what it says on the friggin' on the box. Shit. I don't know. When you're doing the settings, it goes, "Do you want 16 megahertz or 24 megahertz?"
Well, I think with one thing with this disc is that the audio is really really well done. It's
I was about
it's
to
a Master 5.1, and I'm a big fan of Philip Glass. And he does the soundtrack to the first and second film, and his soundtrack is just so good for this.
The score?
Yeah,
the score is hilarious. It's worse than Nightbreed.
What?
I have it in my notes here. I hated the score. The organ and the boop, 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 boop. Ugh. God awful. Anyway, what you're saying about how awesome the soundtrack is?
Yeah, I'm a big Philip Glass fan, so yeah, I think it's very very effective for what it is, because it like I like. Yeah, but that's how the story is also.
I know it didn't work for me, but that's okay.
That's because Michael Bay didn't have like Hans Zimmer do it. It's not a Hans Zimmer score, so it can go basically.
Well, actually, Michael Bay doesn't actually use Hans Zimmer. He uses his company, and he uses someone who's works under Hans Zimmer. I can't remember his name exactly, but
there you go. See, that proves my theory.
The Transformer score is awesome.
All right. So, anyways,
I'm being facetious.
No. You're being dead serious. But yeah, I think the audio is good. I just to hear Philip Glass's score is definitely a high point of this disc for sure. But
we disagree on that. But the
oh god,
the sound in general is bulky. Like, it sounds good. Like my speakers were cranking, and I was able to actually watch this without my headphones last night. So that's a plus.
Yeah,
I was actually able to hear it for what it's
there
worth.
you go. And hearing Tony Todd's voice, on the loud surround sound is pretty good. I think this is funny too, because Tony Todd's first horror movie was the remake of Night of the Living Dead, and then he did this, and then after Candyman, like that very much like kickstarted his career into horror.
Yeah,
and that's kind of all he's doing nowadays. But yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. It's funny because I claim that his first horror film is an action movie called Enemy Territory, that I highly recommend. It's not on DVD or anything like that. It's just VHS. But it's about it's like when I say this to you, and when people listen, they're gonna be like, "Wow, that movie doesn't sound good at all." But it's actually about an insurance agent that goes to the ghetto, very much like how Candyman is, where the history lies in that apartment complex. He goes to something very similar to that and has this woman sign the paperwork, but he's there late, so all the crazy gangs come out, And he comes across this group called the Vampires, and Tony Todd's the head of the Vampires, known as the Count. And Ray Parker Jr., yes, the guy who does the Ghostbusters theme, is one of the tenants and helps our friend fight through the night in this high rise against this gang called the Vampires. It's actually a really good action movie. It's comical at times, but it's really, really good. But there's this huge like horror undertone because the group called the Vampires and him called the Count. Like they only come out at night. Like they want to finish everything before sunrise comes up. They're very adamant about that. It's just certain things that happen in the film that has these horror undertones. I think it's pretty cool. So I like to claim that is Tony Todd's first horror film. But other than that, he played the role of Ben in the remake of Tom Savini's remake of a very good remake of Night of the Living Dead. And then he just kind of blew up. And I thought I think that's pretty cool for Tony Todd. He made a career. His career really, really went off after Candyman. That's how, because he was in like
there's a lot of TV and shit.
He's in Platoon, right? Was it Platoon? That was like one of his first movies. He was in a war movie.
I don't think it was. Yeah, you're right. Holy shit.
Yeah. I know I'm right. I know. So, and then, he played in The Rock. He's played in some big Hollywood blockbusters. And he also, because he plays Blood whatever guy, Dr. Blood something in the Final Destination movies. And that's another kind of iconic character he has, is he plays Death, kind of like Death's like, like advocate or something. I don't know. Like the speaker. Anyways,
he's good. I love Tony Todd.
You would.
What's that supposed to mean? A lot of people love Tony Todd. Hey, he was a voice in Transformers Prime.
Okay.
Cartoon.
Well, dude, he was the voice of the Fallen in the Transformers movie. You dumb shit.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the voice of the Fallen. I'm pretty sure. Am I wrong?
You might be wrong.
You need to look that up. You tell me you don't have IMDb pulled up right now?
I'm looking at it right now.
I'm pretty sure.
He's not in it. Nope. He's in Final Destination 5. So moving along here.
Moving along. Tony Todd was the voice of the Fallen.
Really? He's not.
No, yeah. He was the voice of the Fallen.
Oh, shit, dude. There it is.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about here.
Dude, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't realize.
I like Tony Todd. I'm a fan. No, you're not.
Well, he has so much to his credit. I'm
surprised, like, you don't have, like, full transcripts and, like, fucking write-ups of everybody that's been in every Michael Bay movie. You try to contact them and saying, hey, how was it working with Michael Bay on Transformers? Hey, you were on the you're uncredited in the movie, but how was it working?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I watch the movie and then I'll watch the making of, but then I forget. I got too much going on. I can't retain all this stuff. But good job. You know what it was? I didn't realize that Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen came out in 2009. I didn't realize it was that old. I guess I don't know, but I guess there's been 4 Transformers movies. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 4. I know that you were a big fan of the last one. So.
It was fun. There
you go.
I don't know if I'll ever.
No way.
Well, no. The only times I ever really rewatch like Michael Bay's stuff, especially the Transformers movies, is like if I get like a new speaker or if I get a new receiver and I want to test out the sound system.
I bet you get receivers just because of that. You buy speakers just because you watch Michael Bay movies.
It's the only time they come out. Really, I own all the Michael Bay Transformers
like a
movies.
Mantle. With a picture, like pictures of Michael Bay around it.
Yeah, with explosions, with babes and explosions. No, the only times I haven't sat down and rewatched any of the Transformers movies except to kind of go through some of the action scenes and make sure my speakers are calibrated properly. That's really
because those are the only movies that have good
why?
sound.
You know why? Because on Revenge of the Fallen, especially the Paramount stars come around and they hit each speaker like that, so I can make sure every single one works. Seriously.
Well, there you go.
All right, moving along here. Enough of your
horns.
I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life.
Just love me for the rest of mine.
Please, you have to believe me. I loved her.
What does it feel like to get away with murder?
Coming God to save your soul.
You should ask the devil to punish whoever killed her.
You know, you don't have to convince me. I believe you.
Why are you protecting me? Because if I did anything to her, then I'm a monster. How do I look? Did you notice anything unusual?
I'm in hearts.
What are they?
You know how I think we should proceed? I should grind me up some OxyContin and have a little snort.
Everyone in this town is going crazy. I think it's because of me and these horns.
You killed that innocent girl. Now the devil has claimed you.
He didn't kill her father, and now people are telling me all these things I don't want to hear.
I'm so bad. I'm bad. I'm pretty enough to be on TV, right?
Alexander Aja.
Will you please
Aja.
not pronounce
Alexander
a name like that?
Aja, who I'm a fan of. I think I've liked, for the most part, pretty much all of his films. He's not like, I have issues with all of his films, but I've enjoyed, for the most part, like his, I guess, vision. You know what I mean? For the films he has. He's from France, right?
Yes.
Because he was known for High Tension, of course, and then most recently Piranha 3D, and before that Mirrors. Let's
Don't forget the Hills Have Eyes remake.
And the Hills Have Eyes remake. So I was
or
asking,
Furia. You forgot Furia.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, there you go. You're
So
not a
what
fan
are
of that.
what are your thoughts on Alexander Aja as a whole, like as a director?
No, I mean, I like what he does. I think he's got a great vision. I like how his films look dirty. They look like they're from the 80s. I think he's a good writer. I mean, he wrote P2, which he didn't direct, and he also wrote the remake of Maniac.
Oh, that's right.
But he didn't direct that either. But even in his film Furia, which is from the 90s, this is one he did in France. It's like post-apocalyptic film, and it's just very stylized. It's very good. It's not his best film, but it's definitely a hard-hitting debut. And then he eventually did, which was known as Switchblade Romance, over in France for a while, and then eventually it got over here a few years later, known as High Tension.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember spending so much damn money on getting Switchblade Romance. I was like a senior in high school, and I got it. And finally, Lionsgate picked it up and put it over here, and I think it was 2 or 3 years later. But I like that because it's no CGI blood. It's just very bloody and very gritty and very dirty and not a nice movie.
Yeah.
It's very evil and sinister, and I think he shows that a lot, even with in The Hills Have Eyes. It's done in such a classy way. I remember when The Hills Have Eyes remake came out. At that time, I was very I don't want any remakes. I don't want to remake of one of my favorite horror films. And I had a friend that saw it, and he was just like, it's really good. I said, did you ever see the original? And he said, no. And I said, well, probably everything's gone. And everything I was mentioning that was in the original, he was like, yeah, that's in there. And I was like, oh shit. And eventually I watched it. It's one of the best remakes ever made.
It's one of the, totally.
It's really good. And I know that people have already seen that. And then he did, a couple years later, did Mirrors. That's kind of like a haunted house, a big haunted house feel.
A haunted, what was that, a museum, or what was that?
Well, it's
just like this gigantic building.
Yeah, it's using mirrors to get into their home. It's like ghosts and shit.
Yeah.
And then he did the fun Piranha 3D, which was a bloody blast. And then he did Horns, which we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So based on his filmography so far, how do you think Horns falls in there?
I'm still kind of like on the fence with Horns. I saw Horns at Fantastic Fest, and I remember sitting in the theater and halfway through the film, I was like, man, this is one of my favorite movies like ever right now. I was like, I'm having such a good time. And it was up until I think I've said this on the podcast and previous episodes when we were talking about it coming out. It's just the last like 5-10 minutes really like make that movie just not very fun for me. I think it holds up because it has the humor, it has the look. He just has this like 80s like look, this throwback look to his films without actually calling it throwback or throwing any weird grain during editing or anything like that. He just makes his movies look good.
Well, he obviously has a good cinematographer and cares about framing each scene, which we had of a lot in the 80s. You know?
No, he does an excellent job. I mean, I still think Horns is a well-made movie.
Yeah.
And for as big as it is, I think this is his biggest movie, as far as like story and special effects wise.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to lead into a fun conversation because I want to talk about Horns is written by Joe Hill, which if people don't know who Joe Hill is, that's Stephen King's son.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Joe Hill and Stephen King. Stephen King wrote The Shining, and that was made into a movie by Stanley Kubrick. And now we have Joe Hill, which was, he executive produced it. He was basically supervised this movie a lot. Also executive producer, which he worked closely with Aja.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Stephen King did not work with Kubrick closely. And Stephen King really, really hates Kubrick's film.
Huh.
Which I thought was interesting because with how the Shining book, how the novel's written, it's a lot different. It's very, very different from the movie. Kubrick didn't use a lot of things that are in the book. For one, the whole sequence with the wasp nests, and also the bushes coming to life in The Shining. And in the book, there's a bunch of hedges that are shaped like elephants and stuff like that, and they come to life in the book. Now in the movie, it takes a very different serious approach of like almost like cabin fever type
more
deal,
psychological kind of.
And it's funny because you sit back and you listen to people whenever remakes are made, or stuff that's based on comic books or stuff that's based on a movie. If anything derails from that story, people kind of already throw up their fists. They even throw up their fists before it's announced, like before they see it. They're against it. So I think it's kind of odd because I think The Shining is a wonderful film. It's in my top 10 for sure. I've seen it countless times. I also love the book, but it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they made that miniseries with what's his face, with The Shining, they put everything that's in the book into the miniseries, and it made it not as fun. Even though you have Steven Weber in it, that probably ruined it. And he plays a terrible Jack Torrance. But there's just certain things that almost shouldn't be seen that are out of that book. I know that's kind of fucked up to say because it's Stephen King's vision, but there's just certain things that that Kubrick didn't pull from the book to the screen. And I almost feel that Aja should have done that with Joe Hill's book with Horns, because at the end of the film, we are shown some things that really don't fit the low keyness of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he has horns on his head. There's some satanic shit that's mixed in there, some snakes that follow him around. But we just get this really weird, epic, ending to this film, and it's like almost part of me says, should filmmakers bring everything from the book to the screen? Because that's kind of what Aja did. I mean, Joe Hill's book is very, very. It's pretty much the same thing, other than a couple characters and a couple, instances of storyline with certain characters that's taken out of just due to running time.
Yeah,
but it's weird reading, because because I saw Horns first. I saw the film and I read the book late last year. And watching the film when it happened, I was like, "Oh God, what the hell is happening? This is totally taking me out." And then when I read the book, and I was like, "Oh, okay." It's just weird of how you make it up in your head.
Yeah.
I guess it's special effects wise. The special effects just look really cheesy.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think what happens is like Stanley Kubrick with The Shining. I think he understood what works best in your imagination and what works best on screen. And he was such a good director and so good at his mind worked in such a way where he was able to, I think, adapt it. And even against Stephen King's, the author's, wishes, he made a choice and went with it because he felt this is how, on film, how the story can be portrayed, which takes a good director to do that, and a brave director. And I feel like maybe in the 80s, or set was The Shining, was that 70s?
No, The Shining was in the 80s.
80s. Around that time, 70s.
I think it was like 1980.
I feel like maybe directors had a little more pull than they do now. I think right now we're in such a studio system that there's things in the contract and whatever that are drawn up that a filmmaker has to stick with certain things. But I feel like, so The Shining, I think, worked despite, the actual story. I think he was able to really pull through and make a fantastic film out of that script.
Well, he focused more on Jack Torrance,
right, exactly,
rather than focusing on the actual hotel.
Yeah. Yep. And that was a smart decision, because you were able to get a little more, you kind of related or is more personal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So with Horns, I feel like it, in the last 15 minutes, like it's an urban fantasy, and it's set up as, I jotted him, and within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. This is a fantasy film. This is fantasy. But what he does is he tries with the first, for most of the beginning of the movie, he tries to ground it in reality, where I feel like if we were given, which when all the high fantasy stuff starts happening near the end, the bad shit, crazy stuff, it's a shock, and I didn't mind it as much. I think from the storytelling, it just got a little clunky, and I didn't really connect with the story by that point. But I think if he would have, kind of set up the more fantastical elements, because these characters obviously, I don't know, there's a whole underlying myth or underlying reality where there are certain fantastical elements that characters are fine with. So I think if he would have set that up earlier, maybe, and wove the fantasy stuff in, other than the horns, everything's played pretty straight. If you would have woven things in, I'm trying to dance around the plot. I feel like it would have worked better, I think, if we were introduced to more of the high fantasy in the beginning. Or if he would have, like Kubrick did with The Shining, maybe toned down the ending and made it more about characters, their interactions and their history. You know what I mean? Because at the end, that's what's jettisoned. It's not personal anymore. You don't connect with them because all this shit is going on. You don't connect personally with the main character you've been following this whole time. So, yeah, I think overall, though, Horns really worked for me up until the end. I think Daniel Radcliffe, I want to say this is the best I've seen him on screen. I mean, we've been watching his career since he was a kid. And he's,
well, you have.
Well, I've watched all I just recently watched all the Harry Potter movies with my kids, so I was able to see him and he's not that good in those movies, at all. I don't think he's good at all in any of those movies. Maybe in the first one he's decent, but as he gets older, he kind of gets awkward, and I don't feel like he's that good. I liked him in A Woman in Black, but I still couldn't get him couldn't take him kind of as an adult as he's trying to play in that movie. But I feel like in Horns is the first time that I think he's been through enough things, he's done enough stage, I think, and gotten enough experience where he he's bringing his A game in Horns. Like this, what did you think about his performance?
No, I think Daniel Radcliffe's. I mean, I actually have only seen part of the first Harry Potter film. I didn't watch any of the other ones, but I think from Woman in Black and to this, I mean, he just when diving into horror, I think that he does a fairly good job of portraying this character, because he kind of has. He can be sinister, and that's what I really like about him, because I mean he's known as Harry Potter, and that's something that he wants to get out of quick, because if he doesn't, he was very smart, because if he didn't jump out of the Harry Potter, his career would be dead, because that just happens. If you don't change your image, you are not going to be great, because he also recently he was in Kill Your Darlings as well, which he did earlier last year, and he was decent in that. I mean, he really portrayed that character really well as Allen Ginsberg in the film. But he just really takes that role and takes a hold of it, and he becomes kind of the devil. And I really like that with this film. And he's actually one of the reasons why I didn't want to watch the movie, but he is also one of the biggest reasons why I liked the movie after I saw it.
Yeah. We haven't really done the setup of the movie, I guess, but it's a fairly simple setup. He is basically on trial in the mid trial, or he's been accused of the murder of his girlfriend. And one morning he wakes up and horns start growing on his head. And once that happens, people start kind of acting weird, and he discovers some powers. And I think for me, it's a movie that you kind of want to discover as it goes along, because I didn't watch a trailer or anything, and I went in almost completely blind on this. And I loved the journey that it took me on. But basically that's the setup. I mean, dude wakes up with horns on his head, and there's some darker elements. Like that's the thing with the movie that I wanted them to explore more, because they talk about God and the devil and all that kind of deeper underlying stuff, what could be causing the horns, like all that's kind of jettisoned, where I feel like it's possibly explained in the book. But you're asked to kind of just go along with this. But I think there's some subtext. I feel like they just jettisoned for the film itself that I think would have made for a stronger ending. But because I jotted down, I'm like, ooh, like this is right up my alley. Like they're mixing in religion and fantasy and horror all into one movie. And I was like, here we go. And then they jettisoned the religion aspect part of it. Yeah. But there's a priest in there, and his imagery does come up to be, the horns coming out do signify like a devil or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's why it's hard to talk about this, I guess, because I don't want to spoil too much. But
you're spoiling shit.
I'm not spoiling anything at all. I'm being very careful with this.
Well, I think without going any further, it's something. It's another hit or miss for people. I think actually all three of the films that we talked about are definitely hit or misses, because there's just certain things in Horns that people really dig. I know that people had a problem with the comedy aspect to it, because there's a lot of comedy in Horns. Yeah, I think it works fine. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I actually really enjoyed about Horns, and even Joe Hill's book, is that it's very true to real life. I'm pretty sure if people would speak their minds all the time, you would be isolated. You wouldn't have any friends. You wouldn't even have family members that liked you, because you would just completely be truthful. I know that sounds really dark and sinister, and people are probably like, "Oh no, not me." No, everybody has those deep, dark secrets. Totally. Everybody, I'm a firm believer in no one knows anybody 100%. You can sit there and you can say, well, I know my wife 100%. No, you don't. You don't. No one knows anybody to the fullest. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. Yeah. And no one's ever going to open that up to 100%. And I think that's a fun I say fun, but that's a very weird word to use.
It opens itself up to some very dark humor, and that's what I really enjoyed about the film. And it makes sense in the context of the film. The humor,
like,
does.
we're laughing,
Yeah.
we're laughing at the humor, but at the times, like after it was over, I was like, man, it's really clever because that's kind of like how it would be.
Yeah.
I just think the thing with the cops alone is one of the funniest things. I was cracking up, and I was just like, it's so true. It's so true. But anyways, yeah, Horns comes recommended for me. I can't wait to revisit it again. I've only seen it once, and it's cheap on Blu-ray. It's a bare bones disc from Anchor Bay, which the transfer is good, and of course, but it's bare bones, which was a little odd. But also that means it knocks down the price to $12.99. Which I say that I'm not the biggest fan of special features. I think that they're cool, and it's cool if they have it. But this is something I would probably like to hear, like a commentary by Aja and Joe Hill.
Totally.
Just to see what Joe Hill thought, and because he was executive producer on the film. I mean, he's his legacy is I think it's really cool what he did too. He's known as Joe Hill. No one really knows that it's Stephen King's son. I mean, you look at him and you're like, oh, like, you don't have to know. You just look at it. You're like, well, that could be Stephen King's son. But I like what he's doing. He's got some really, really creepy shit going on there. I really want to see his site, because he wrote Horns a few years ago, and then he wrote Nosferatu a couple years ago, and I've actually read Nosferatu, and I'm really, really waiting for that to be in a film. People will see you, like you've seen it it's a license plate that says NOS 4A2.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not Nosferatu.
Nice.
is what I've gathered that means. But I think it's cool the route he's going, and I think that he's channeling his dad pretty hardcore at times. And he also wrote the very popular comic book series Lock and Key.
Yeah.
So I think he's getting there. I would just like to hear what he says about seeing his work, on the screen, because I mean, he had this with his dad. Basically, everything his dad has done has made it to the screen. Mm-hmm. And now he's got to do that. And how does he feel? Even though he was pretty much behind this movie 100%, and Stephen King had a lot of films where he was not a part of. I would still like to hear his opinion on how it looks and how it actually feels watching everything unfold, rather than reading it and putting it in your imagination. Because it's a lot easier to read something and picture something nuts rather than see it, because you have, special effects can only go so far. It can't be practical. And if it is practical, does it look good? And if it's not practical, it takes us out of the movie a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah. I think that's something that Horns definitely falls the category into, is that did they show too much? And if, does that take you out of the movie? And I say it does. I think they showed too much, which I don't think they should take it out, but maybe tone it down a little bit. Because it gets pretty ridiculous. It
gets very CG towards the end, and I think if they would have just said, let's attempt to do this like an 80s movie, like practical, it could have maybe hit a little harder. And I think that's it takes the weight, I think, out of the scenario and what we're watching in the story, because all of a sudden it's it's just a CG Harry Potter type. You know what I mean? It just I don't know, like CG's not there yet to give you that kind of weight of the situation.
Well, especially this film isn't that, that big.
Well, for what it is, it's good. Like, for what it is, it's good. I'm not saying that CG's total crap, but you can just, you can just tell, like, there's that sheen of CG-ness to it that kind of, where up till that point, the movie has been working in spades, mainly based off the actors and the scenarios, but and the cinematography. Like, there's just some gorgeous shots, like when they're, him and his girlfriend are in that the mossy, in the woods. Beautiful stuff, And I was coveting his record collection too. Dear God, that was a wall of records at the beginning. But I think it's worth a shot. And I was telling somebody was on the fence on buying it, on spending even $12. And I was like, you know what? Like, rent it. This is I highly recommend you rent this if you're on the fence. For me, it was $12. I was like, I'm gonna be talking about this. $12 is I'm gonna grab it. But you're right. I would have loved. I think also this is the first Blu-ray that doesn't have a commentary from Alexander Aja. I think he's done commentaries on most of his other films on Blu-ray. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like High Tension hasn't made it to Blu-ray, has it?
Yeah.
Not in the U.S. I don't think.
Oh, not in the U.S. Okay, yeah.
It's a UK release, I think, on Blu-ray, which I'm just probably going to grab.
Yeah, and I think it actually might be known as Switchblade Romance over there.
Okay.
So, which is a lot better title.
Cool. I'm glad he's still doing films, man. I'm glad he's still working. I think Alexander Aja has a long career ahead of him. So
yeah. Well, he does have some movie called like Cobra Commander coming out or some crazy bullshit.
Where'd it go? I had it up.
I remember reading about it.
Space Adventure Cobra.
Yeah, that's something.
Dear God,
that
title is amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
His next movie he's filming right now is called The Ninth Life of Louis Drax. Blech. Dear God, a mouthful. Space Adventure Cobra, cool title. The Ninth Life of Louis Drax.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is that, that's your mentality. It's like, Cobra, space?
Yes.
Yeah. Who wants a drama?
I don't know. When you get to like almost a sentence of a movie title, we'll see. But I'm glad that I'm glad he hasn't had everyone was saying that Horns was kind of a bomb, but I'm glad that he hasn't had that happen to him where he's all of a sudden he's out of directing movies. I don't think
it's a bomb.
Yeah, no. And I don't think that'll ever happen.
I just think it's different. He's just doing something a little bit different for people. That's all.
Yep. And I dig it. I think Horns comes recommended for me.
Do you think we should do our? We have a little hidden top 10 list here.
Oh yeah, top 10 novel adaptations.
Sick fucks using one too many.
I said, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Yeah, this is a different one because this is kind of cray.
Mine, I think mine is pretty safe, but I'm interested to hear yours. So let's jump into our top 10 list here. I'm going to start out with mine just because mine is probably.
There you go. I knew it. You don't even have to say it. I know
because mine's super safe. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. You probably have some batches of stuff in there. Am I right? Or do you have more mainstream titles? Let me ask you: do you have a lot of mainstream titles in your list?
I don't know.
Do you have things involving Stephen King and Anne Rice?
I have Stephen King.
Okay. I'm going to go first. Just because I think I do that because I think your list is probably going to be more interesting. So here we go.
All right, go ahead.
Mine's not all horror, but I tried to kind of keep it more genre in a sense, right? There's some.
I didn't. I did my favorites.
Okay, like I left out like Lord of the Rings and.
No, just
like
go. Just say it.
Here we go.
Just say it.
I'm gonna burn through mine. Okay. Silence of the Lambs.
Wait, I have to say this has got to be stuff that you read.
Dude, I don't read a lot of books. So
so you didn't read the books?
No.
Oh God!
Am I supposed to have read the books?
Well, how can you make a fair assumption? Because books are sometimes totally different.
So let me whittle this down: Interview with the Vampire, Pet Sematary, and Tommyknockers.
Wait, but the Tommyknockers the ones that you have read?
That's what I have read. That's been adapted to film, and Lord of the Rings.
Oh, well, no, I mean, I thought we were doing like your best, your favorite novels to movies, which would incorporate. It would be something that you actually read.
Yeah. No, I didn't do that.
I love you.
Well, I haven't read that many books that have been adapted to film. The Bible. How's that? I'm just kidding.
Passion of the Christ. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I'm sorry. I should have actually clarified that before.
Well, here, you know what? You go, and I will streamline. I will streamline this, and you go. Go, Brad.
All right. My first is Bret Easton Ellis's book. It was written in the 90s, American Psycho, which was made into a feature film later on. I like it because, and it's one of those things where the movie actually covers the book pretty well. There's no big surprises, really not many changes in it, but it's just very dark and very sinister and just kind of really fucked up. And I really liked it. If you know the ending of American Psycho, when you get to that part in the book, it's just like, wow. It almost makes it more dark and sinister than if actually Patrick Bateman went through everything. Have you seen American Psycho, Sean?
Of course. You kidding me?
Okay. Well, I don't know because I didn't want to spoil it. All right. Well, anyways, this movie came out in like 2000, so I'm going to go ahead and say, because of course when you get to the end of American Psycho, spoiler alert, you find out that Patrick Bateman actually this is all in his head, which I think is a little scarier because that's what he's thinking about rather than doing it. I don't know. I just find that a little crazy. Which is another fun thing about the character Patrick Bateman, because Bret Easton Ellis wrote another book called Rules of Attraction, and that was made into a movie. Well, if people, I don't know if the book was that popular, but in the movie, James Van Der Beek plays, I forget his name, but it's actually Patrick Bateman's brother. In the deleted scenes of the Blu-ray and DVD, he actually meets Patrick Bateman. He talks to his brother. I believe it's portrayed by Jerry O'Connell. But anyways, I always thought that was a fun little connection in American Psycho. So yeah, definitely pick up the book, pick up the movie, everything, and just pour it all into your eyes. The Mist is one of my favorite adaptations. Ends a little bit differently. This one's a little bit newer, so I won't spoil it for anybody. But I love the movie. I actually like what Darabont did with the ending, because in the ending of the book, I feel that you can, because it's uncertain what's going to happen in the book. Now in the movie it takes a different toll, but I actually like that because it's almost like the movie is a continuation of what happens after that last chapter. So I actually like what Darabont did, because you can in the book, Stephen King gives you the opportunity to make up the future for our survivors. That's what you're allowed to experience. That's the experience that you have while reading the book. That final line that's in the movie or in the book, you're like, okay, this is what's going to happen to him. This is what I think. This is what I want to happen. And Darabont just took that and he just ran with it and made a epic ending to that movie. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. I remember reading this in school, and then we watched the movie. And this is like middle school. We got to check this out, which is a little odd seeing it at such a young age. But I don't know. It was just something, because I felt that I was being like very sophisticated reading it. Like, I had this old cover to it, and we're going to watch the movie. It's the movie's from the 70s. So I felt good doing it. And I actually ended up liking it, and I became to like the movie a lot more, which the book to screen it was very much the same thing, other than a couple characterizations and just small things like that. One of my other favorites is just recent. This is made into a movie, but it was written in the 90s. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I love the drama in this, and it's so well done in the book and even in the movie. The movie's great. It does a really, really good job of taking this barrage of characters, and because we have Charlie, who's a 15-year-old kid who's dealing with just high school and just life. He meets Mary Elizabeth, and it's just this great child. It just brings you back to whether you were popular in middle school, high school, or whether you were a wallflower, or if you just kind of like you did under the radar stuff. It really grasps a lot of things. It's almost like this is a bad comparison, but I feel at parts like this is kind of like Porky's, because everybody thinks that Porky's is this teen comedy, and it is, but there's like a lot of hard-hitting stuff in Porky's that people don't realize, like the abusive dad. And when all the kids like stick up for him at the end, and they're like, you touch him again, we're gonna fucking kill you type thing. There's just dealing with girls and just life. There's a lot of that in the first Porky's film that I think that's very important. And yes, we are putting our dick through a hole for the gym teacher to grab, but there's actually a lot of other things. And the same thing with American Pie. American Pie is very slapstick comedy, but there's a lot of like very creative things that they took from that they had in the movie that made it hard hitting in life. No matter what life you led, whether you're a partier or whether you're a social recluse, something connects. And I think with The Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's the perfect book for anybody that wants to kind of revisit those days of their childhood. The other one that I really, really like is Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard, and this book was retitled when it became a movie. It's known as Tarantino's Jackie Brown. Very, very, very similar. Kind of just run of the mill, just nuts by Leonard. Leonard is known as having crazy fucking characters in his books. I mean, everything from Up in Honey's Room to the other one that's on my list, Out of Sight, with Foley, Cisco, and what was the other person's name? There's three people in that, and Ray, Rey. But yeah, Out of Sight, very just Soderbergh did a perfect job of grabbing the material from that book and presenting it. I think mostly all Leonard's films or Leonard's books that have been made into movies does a really, really good job. Even like with Get Shorty, of the comic side they went with it. They did a really, really good job, but also kept kind of the seriousness to it. You know what? I take that back, because I think they made The Big Bounce into a movie. That was one of his very first books. You remember that movie with Owen Wilson and Morgan Freeman, that comedy that came out in like the 2000s? He's terrible.
I probably did.
Yeah, I take that back.
Yeah,
so that one was really bad. But I think everything else that has been made into a movie has been good, especially Out of Sight. And actually, he wrote a sequel, kind of a sequel to that a few years ago, called Road Dogs, and it follows the stuff of Cisco and Ray and Foley. So that's a pretty good one. Let's see, next on my list, a book called Thor. A lot of people don't know this is actually the movie is based on a book, but the movie was made in the 90s. It was a werewolf movie. It's really good. It's called Bad Moon. It's the special effects are so good in Bad Moon, but it's actually based on a book, and the book is very odd, and that's the reason why I like it a lot. It's actually through the eyes of the dog, of the family dog in the movie. The dog, because the family's quite large in the book, and in the movie it's not. It's a very, very small family, but you actually go through the dog's mind and how he thinks and chooses, because he looks at the family as as a pack, because it's known, scientists have done studies with animals. The reason why dogs are so close, and there's that connection, is because the dogs look at you as part of their pack, part of their family, which is a cool feeling with animals. But that's how this dog thinks. And also, when the werewolf's thrown in, he doesn't know whether that's part of the pack or whether he needs to protect. And of course, that goes to the protect, and he knows that it must be eliminated in order to protect his pack, which I think is it's kind of comical to say that, but it actually works in the book. It's not as silly as it sounds. Another one of my favorites. I always get people. Did you just snicker at Thor?
No, I did not.
Don't snicker.
No snickering happened. I don't know.
One of my other favorites is Phantoms. Dean Koontz' Phantoms. I know the movie gets a laugh at times. Phantoms is one of the most terrifying books that I've ever read. I think it's extremely scary and it's extremely well done. The movie side, it's a little bit more comical. And a little bit silly, because this is another one of these things that falls short because of you see what's actually happening rather than what you're reading. But I still think it's well done, and I think it's scary. The book, at least, not so much the movie. Another Stephen King one is Christine. I love the relationship with Cunningham and what's his friend's name? I just drew a blank. Arnie Cunningham, and it's not Richie, is it?
I do not know.
Okay. Anyways, the relationship between the two teenage kids is just perfect, because he cares so much about Arnie, and Arnie actually David. His name's David, I believe. David cares so much about Arnie, and Arnie cares so much about it. There's a very good bromance in that book, and I think they did a decent job setting up those characters in the movie. It's just that it didn't carry through all the way like the book did. And that's something that I still love Christine. I think it's a great adaptation. But it's just that David started focusing a little bit more on Lee instead of Arnie, because in the book he still cares a lot about. In the movie he does too, but in the book he cares a lot about Arnie, but that's kind of lost because Arnie's getting possessed and lost. That we kind of get away from it, especially like when Arnie visits him in the hospital. Arnie's just an asshole, and even though he's an asshole, he still cares a lot about his friend. It's just, we kind of lose that a little bit, but I still like that adaptation. And I think my last one, because that's 9, this one's funny, but I have enjoyed it as a kid, is The Sheep Pig, which became as Babe. The book and movie, they're identical, and nothing has really changed too much. It's just a fun family. It's just a good book for kids, and it's just great that they followed such that storyline and pulled everything from that novel into the movie. It's just something for kids to visualize too. So I think it's 10 stars all around. Like, it's just a great adaptation. It's just a fun movie. Cool. Whether you like kids' movies or not, Babe's pretty good.
Nice. Well, I mean, speaking of kids' movies, I mean, Charlotte's Web, the film and the cartoon, just barely were nudged out. That would be my honorable mention, because I like both the cartoon. I've read the book countless times. I love the cartoon, and I watched the movie with my kids, and I teared up a little bit.
Yeah, I remember my mom crying a lot.
So, all right, I have whittled my list down. I have moved things around. I did end up with 10. So when we first did it, I didn't realize this is stuff we had to have read, and I mean, well,
that's the thing is, how would you expect it? How could you judge if it's a good adaptation or not?
That was based on a book. Cool. I want to read the book now. I don't know. Who knows? But I mean, I've been married for 10 years, been a father for 9 of them. So I haven't done much reading in the past. I would say 9 years. So I had to dig deep. into what I've read. So this is in no particular order here. So the first one would be 1984. I remember, I don't know if I read this in college or high school, but I remember reading the book, and then I didn't know there was a movie. When I found out there was a movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be great to see. So then I saw the movie, and I think I was blown away at how they portrayed everything in the film. But that's one I've been wanting to buy, but it hasn't had a really good release, has it? 1984.
I've actually never seen the movie.
With John Hurt. But
John Hurt.
Yeah, you've seen him. He was in Alien. He's the dude that the chest burster burst out of first time.
I think you're getting somebody confused.
I don't think so.
1984 is written by George Orwell, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That movie came out
1984.
What?
The movie came out in 1984. And it's called 1984.
No.
The George Orwell novel. Based on the George Orwell novel. Yeah.
No. That movie came out in the 50s, man.
No, I'm talking about the 1984.
A remake?
I don't know. I'm talking about the 1984 version. That's the one that I saw. John Hurt, he's in friggin' Snowpiercer, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah. I don't know. It may have been made back in the 50s, but I'm talking about the 1984 version directed by Michael Radford. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't even know that was remade then. I'll have to check that out.
I really dig it. I want it to be on Blu-ray at some point. It's just a dark, dirty film. The way they portrayed the big brother, this totalitarian government. You've seen all this in movies, before. But I think they do it really well here, and it's really effective. Next up, here we go, jumping into Lord of the Rings. Out of the Lord of the Rings adaptations, all the movies, I think the first movie, The Fellowship of the Ring, is my favorite out of all of them, because then they turned into all the other ones turned into more epic action adventure things. But I think where J.R.R. Tolkien shines is in more of the characters and their interactions with each other. And I think that Fellowship of the Ring, setting up the journey, is its strongest and I think deepest of the series. But I love the whole series. The original Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies, not so much. That's how not to adapt. Anyway, moving along. I dig them for what they are, but man, oh man, that should have been one movie. People say, oh, it should be two. No, that should be one movie. The Hobbit is one book. All right, moving along. Don't need to spend too much time on J.R.R. Tolkien, but he's one of my favorite authors. Jurassic Park. I hadn't really read the book or anything before Spielberg's movie came out, and I heard it was coming out, so I read the book and then watched the movie. And there are two different animals. I think that Spielberg does his Spielberg thing with the story, and it works on for film level. But I dug the heck out of the book too. But I think I was more tense in the movie for some reason than when reading the book.
Yeah.
The Tom Clancy's The Hunt for Red October is the movie is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love the movie. I realize there's some problem. I realize Sean Connery has an Irish accent or Scottish accent. He's supposed to be a Russian. I get it. But I in a lot of these I saw the movie and then read the book. And I remember I read the book as a kid. Like, I saw the movie, and the movie is PG-13. The book is a very hard R if you're going to make the book into a movie. And, being a sheltered kid at, like we said, like 9 or 7 or 8 years old or whatever, me reading the Tom Clancy book, I was just, they're throwing fucks here and there, on every paragraph,
You just threw a fuck.
I did. Threw a fuck. So I remember like taking the book on the bus and like giggling with my brother and people on the bus to school about all the swear words in the book. I don't know. But the movie, I love the movie, and I think that's of all the these Tom Clancy movies and books, I think this is the strongest adaptation. I feel like they don't get the care. I don't know. There's something about all the other movies that they just don't get right, I feel like. But this one works, I think, on all levels for me. Next up is The Outsiders. and this was a book like probably like most kids, we read this book, in school, and then we got to see we got to watch the big epic gang battle in school. So I thought that was a big deal that I was going to get to watch some violence on the TV in school. And it was fun seeing all these actors like Tom Cruise, like super young. So, of course, the author is S.E. Hinton, and it was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Have you seen the director's cut of this, Brad?
No, I have not.
There's I think the only version to get on Blu-ray is the whole novel, where it's the director's cut, and there's like a whole extra hour. I think I actually prefer the theatrical. So I think sometimes with books to screen, like almost too much doesn't work. You need to really trim them down.
Yeah.
Next, Where the Wild Things Are. Now, this is a children's book. It's like, 10 pages or something? It takes you like 10 seconds to read to a kid. So when I heard they were making this into a film, I was like, there's no way that could work as a movie. You know what I mean? And while it wasn't necessarily a kids movie, like I still haven't shown the movie to my kids. I think Spike Jonze takes this skeleton of a story and makes something he makes a drama out of this, and like a very poignant drama too. Like there's times in that movie where I almost just broke down and just started bawling because it tapped into stuff of my childhood or something. So it's
monsters.
There's monsters in it, but I think there's there's this tortured kid, and he's coming to it's a self-actualization. I can't even talk right now. Where he's learning about himself through the monsters, through his time with the monsters, and learning how to kind of come out of his shell, because this kid's a bullied kid. He kind of has a broken family a little bit. And they, out of this little book, they come up with all this stuff that I think is super poignant, and I love it. I love the movie, and I think the movie got bashed because it wasn't more whimsical and fun. It's more of a drama, and but I love it. I think it's one of my favorite, I think, adaptations of all time, and I'm surprised that Spike Jonze turned in what he did. I'm surprised he got away with it, And it's cool because in the special features of that Blu-ray, you see a conversation between Spike Jonze and Maurice Sendak. I can't pronounce his last name. Sendak. Maurice Sendak.
That's all you. You're good with names.
And he he loved the adaptation, and it's just cool, kind of. And it really, the movie spoke to him, so it was really cool, kind of seeing him see his own work but through a different filter and have it affect him. That was very special. All right, next up, less whimsical stuff, less meaningful stuff here. Pet Sematary is one of the first Stephen King books that I read, and the movie, the book scared the shit out of me, and the movie did the same thing, to me. So I thought it was a really effective adaptation. I haven't watched it in years, the movie, so it'll be interesting to see how it holds up when I watch it as an adult. But for me, it worked. This one got a lot of shit when it came out, but Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, the movie adaptation, I read the book first, and I love the book. But I also really loved the movie. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to the critics back when the movie came out, but I just remember loving the movie almost as much as I love the book. And Neil Jordan was kind of not the most. You wouldn't think that he would do a movie like this. He's more known for his kind of dramas. But I think it's a very good adaptation. I think people give it a lot of crap because of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt or something. I don't know, but for me,
it's all right.
For me, it works. It's one of my. I love it. I love that movie. So, okay, got two more. The 1990 version of Lord of the Flies. I can't remember when I first read this book. It had to have been. I don't know if you would read this book in school or whatever. But I read the book. I don't even remember when. I knew that there was a 1963 version of it, which I think has a Criterion release. But I saw the 1990s film adaptation, and and I really loved it. I don't know whatever. I'm not familiar with the director at all, but the movie, how they portrayed, I think the kid, what was it, Piggy or whatever?
Yeah.
Like that really worked for me. Like all his scenes and just everything that goes down. Like you're watching kids and some serious shit, And I didn't watch the 60s version at all, so I can't compare. But to see,
they're both really good.
Are they okay? But just the story, the book. The setup is just, you got these kids that are forced to survive on an island, and to see how it mirrors like civilization, what's happened throughout the centuries of civilization, so well, and does it with kids. So as a kid reading this, you can kind of relate to it. And so it's a really strong flick. I don't know if this is like, I've been waiting for this to come out on a decent home release too, but it hasn't. It's one that I don't think. Do you know if it's come out on Blu-ray or anything? It's on DVD, isn't it? I saw it on VHS. So. Well,
I think the original's on Blu-ray.
The original is, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the other one is.
Such a shame. But I think it's a really strong adaptation. And finally, Stephen King's It. I know. I read this. I went through like a Stephen King phase as a kid, and I read a crap ton of his books. And for some reason, I think it's probably the clown, Pennywise the Clown. And then I saw the TV movie, and I think it was like a 2-night, special
like
event or something. And the kid stuff works the most for me, I think. And everyone talks about like all the fucked up stuff that's in the book. I don't remember. I don't know if I read it and just kind of skipped over it. There's some weird sex stuff. Right in the book, where people kind of with the kids.
You have some weird sex stuff.
I don't know. Anyway, people give the book a lot of crap. I don't remember that stuff in there, but I remember seeing the movie adaptation, and Tim Curry's Pennywise the Clown for me is one of his best characters that he's done. So I don't know. Well, there you have it. There's our list, man. That's a lot of movies. We rattled through 20 movies.
There you go. Blim.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's show, man. Yeah?
That is this week's show.
You're taking us out on a we're kind of going downhill here. Come on, let's pep it up. Maybe you need to drink some coffee from coffeeshopofhorrors.com.
No, stop.
They're fun. I got, we got to get something going with them. I would love to be able to give away some of their coffee, and I want to start doing some giveaways again in contests. So we're going to kind of, as the year moves along here, we're going to probably bring that stuff. Maybe we can do like 1 or 2 kind of contests a month. Maybe we do something like that a little more, because I think it got crazy. Like every week we were trying to find something to give away. But if we put together some cool little prize packages, I think we can do it a couple times a month. What do you think? Yeah? I'm just throwing it out there right now.
Positive.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. I'm not even sure what we're covering next week, but
we're trying to bring something new to the show with covering newer releases and trying to stay on top of things and talking about other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, let us know how we're doing. Drop us a line. You can go to thescreamcast.com. There's a contact form right there. If you want a t-shirt, there are some available. Still waiting for this last order to come in. My patience is wearing thin, and I'm sure 2 of you listeners, you guys still haven't got your shirts. And I'm about to crack the whip. I need these on my doorstep. You know who you are if you're listening, because you listen to the show. We need those shirts, buddy. So go to thescreamcast.com. There's stuff over there. You can find us on Twitter through there. You can find our Facebook site through there. And, we love the interaction. There's a few of you that hit us up every week on Twitter and everything, and we love it. And drop us a line over there. Also, we want to thank oneofus.net for hosting the show, and nerdly.co.uk for hosting our show over there in the UK. So thank you all for listening. And I think that's going to do it for this week. Unless you have anything else, Brad. Anything else at all you want to say?
I hate you, Sean.
Nice. With that, we'll talk to all you guys next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.
Oh, man. I drank a little too much whiskey last night.
You would.
Have you ever had someone walk in the bathroom right after you blew it up, and like, has anyone ever like commented on it?
No.
I must work with a bunch of assholes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
About to go sing some bass.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Did you just was that a lot for you?
It was, man.